Practice, AI. It does count. It does mean something. All right, the Canes are in their second week. We got Cam Underwood, of course, here from State of the U on our Miami Hurricanes live edition on a Thursday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time with you. So leave those comments, questions, and debate topics for Cam. And I jump in from time to time as well. And we got some other really good news to pass along concerning the Canes for 2022, 26, 28, Cam.
Yeah, all kinds of different round numbered years, if you will, but or evenly numbered years, excuse me. But yeah, here on another Thursday night, good to hang out with you guys. Rushed home from the secret day job because I didn't want to be even a little bit late. We're going to hang out and have some fun.
All right. Here we go. Let's talk it up. The Canes and the commitments are, I'm not going to say rolling in, but it's a steady pace, and the rankings continue to look better for those that are concerned for 2022. Markeith Williams is the 17th rated safety in the country. He's the 28th rated player in the state of Florida, and he's the top 300 player, 242, according to the 247 composite. And he is going to wear the orange and green at this point.
Yeah, so that's your latest blue chip defensive back commitment from Orlando Evans's own Markeith Williams. So, a tall, lengthy, rangy safety, 6'1", about 170 pounds. Definitely room to add size to his frame. But the kid's a ball hawk. 6 interceptions and 9 passes defended, or broken up, if you will. As a high school freshman, was area defensive player of the year as a sophomore. Following that, averaged 10 tackles a game as a junior with a broken wrist. So he had the big club on his hand to protect the broken wrist and the bones that were healing. So, yeah, you come on the scene as a freshman with 6 interceptions. You elevate that in our area defensive player of the year as a sophomore. You elevate that and have 10 tackles per game with a broken hand as a junior. This is and you just have all the skills that you need. I mean, like I said, he's tall enough at 6'1", very lengthy. If you're basketball, basketball NBA draft drinking game, wingspan. If he's 6'1", he has to have a 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" wingspan. I mean, he's long arms, you can tell. And he uses them well. He plays, single high, free safety in high school. He covers, all of the ground from, heels at 12. In the middle of the field, sideline to sideline, between there to 30, 40 yards downfield, breaking up passes, intercepting passes, all over the place. And, he's a blue chip baller, and that's what you want in the secondary. Now you put him with Chris Graves, Kamari Rogers, and Traquan Fegans, your trio of your cornerbacks. Now you got 4 guys in the secondary. The shortest one is Rogers at 5'11". Then you got 6'1", in Williams and Graves, and 6'2" in Fegans, and 3 of the 4 are blue chips. Well, I would say all the 4. If you go by the composite, Graves is a 4-star athlete. That means all 4 of your defensive back commitments are blue chip guys. Look, this is what it should be. This is what recruiting in Miami should be like. Getting premium guys from all over the country, and you stack them at the same position. Now, I know it looks a little Florida Gators-ish in this class because we have half the class is defensive backs, and they like to sign 15 and 17 defensive backs in the class. I don't think that we should go too many more, although there are guys on the radar who have the ability and skill to play here and potential. So we'll see which way we go. With the rest of the secondary, but yeah, Markeith Williams is a guy who can play here. And to the point on the screen, Mr. HD, UF fans are saying that Markeith Williams wasn't a take at UF. Fine. UF never loses a recruiting battle. Nobody was ever an offer. Nobody was ever a take. They never lost a battle. Anybody that they wanted always went there. They never lose out on anybody. Fine. Whatever. Let them live that delusion. But while they're living that delusion, Markeith Williams is your 4th blue chip defensive back coming to the University of Miami in the 2022 class. Now, that's exactly what you should have, and you stack, again, elite upon elite, because you had a couple guys last year, James Williams and Cam Kinchins. Unfortunately, there was the Avante Williams situation where he was kicked off of the team because of the allegations of domestic battery and whatnot. And you usually want it to be for graduation, leaving early to the NFL draft, That's why you want to be replacing guys and recruiting over guys and having more blue chip guys come in. However, I will say, even though this is not a situation, I will not make a lot of that situation. And I don't know whether the allegations are true or false. That will be borne out to be true by the investigation, by the whole, legal system scenario. But in terms of roster building exclusively, and again, I'm not making any judgment about the allegation with Avante Williams. In terms of building the roster, you get Cam Kinchins and James Williams the year after Tay Williams. And then you get Markeith Williams and whoever else they might put in this class this year behind that again. Now you had a guy who's off the roster now. That could have been a transfer. That could have been an injury. That could have been, whatever. But with Avante Williams no longer on the roster, now you build forward to be able to absorb that hit of losing a guy of his caliber and potential from the roster by recruiting guys of the caliber of Kinchins and Williams last year, and then Marquis Williams and whoever else they put at safety with him this year. It's a big get. It's a good get. And if Florida fans, if Gator fans want to feel better about themselves by saying about lying and saying that he's not a take there, that's perfectly fine. I'm good with it. Come on down, Markeith. See you in Coral Gables.
What I am not good with right now is trying to read this live chat right now because I moved this monitor way too far away. My goodness, I got this thing blown up beyond description. And so I'm trying to make my way through here. So, of course, leave those comments, leave those questions. We'll get to them. We will get to them. And in the meantime, before we hit what's going on right now, we'll get to those dates coming up in 2026 and 28. Man, I hate to think about that far in advance, but that's the way college football scheduling goes. BYU, Miami. If anybody, to me, puts those two teams together, I think of a game back in 1990 that I am old enough. Yes, I watched, and I was plenty old at that point even to have watched that game when number one Miami went out to Provo and took it on the chin like 28-21. I may look up the box score of that game, but that set Ty Detmer's 1990 Heisman candidacy off and running, and pretty much was probably the biggest reason why he won the award that year. But the BYU Cougars come to Miami first in 2026, and then a return date in 28.
Yeah, and this is going to be the third and fourth times that our programs have matched up. We had a home and home previously in 88 and 90, as I'm looking it up on the interwebs right now. Miami won the first one in Coral Gables, at the Orange Bowl, 41-17, and then lost the return 2 years later in Provo by that 28-21 scoreline. So yeah, if you're looking for much more history between BYU and Miami, it don't exist. So we're going to create some new history. And they're a name brand team. I'm not going to say that they're like super uber premium or anything, but like BYU is a name brand. Okay, cool.
In a very unique way.
They're
exactly. Kind of in their own category.
Right, exactly. But like, hey, there's nothing wrong with being in your own category, but I mean, it's a name that you're like, oh, that's, it's kind of one of those things, I'm tilting my head kind of like a dog. You're like, okay. Like, it's one of those things, like, I didn't necessarily consider them for a non-conference, but, they're an independent team of repute. They are a name brand, like people do know them and everything. They're going to come down here first, and then the return's going to be 2 years later. And that just adds another premium non-conference opponent on top of Notre Dame, Florida, Alabama this year, South Carolina a couple times, Texas A&M a couple of times, Michigan State this year. It's another name brand, big time. I won't call them Power Five because they're not in a conference, but of that ilk kind of a team. So like I said, it was not necessarily the team that I had looked at for a non-conference game. I think I wrote 5 or 6 years ago a piece about who I want to see in non-conference. They were not on my list. I know that Craig T. Smith is running down his top most wanted non-conference opponents for the future. I know for a fact, because I've seen the list, that they're not on there. Tennessee is also, we did a home and home with them and everything. But yeah, so I'm with it. And honestly, I know that Mark was talking about like looking into the future. This is going to happen sooner than other non-conference games, which this is in this decade even. You know what I mean? Like
it is only 5 years away. It just seems
But you have other ones that are scheduled for 12 and 14 and 16 years out. It's like, oh, well, and then finally some of those are coming to fruition. But, a lot of these were in the, when Miami was good. I mean, we were still always relevant, but, when Miami was good, some of these games that are getting played now were scheduled then. So you're talking 15, 18 years on, and now we're paying off some of the, well, not necessarily us, but, some of these things. But yeah, this is within this decade, 5 years away. This is a much quicker timeline than, some other non-conference games and things like that. But hey, I'm with it. They want to be, BYU wants to build up and have a national reputation. So especially by going independent, so they're looking to play anybody, anywhere. They want to come back out here. Miami's obviously a name brand program. They want to come in here and play and then have us go out there, which is going to raise their profile by playing a name brand team like in Miami. And so it can be mutually beneficial. I'm all for it. Put them on the schedule. We'll play anybody, anywhere. Respect all opponents and fear none. Hopefully we, do our thing. Hopefully our team is at the state where it should be. And we have competitive games. And of course, me, Miami alum, blogger, all those kind of things. I want Miami to win. And hopefully we're able to make that happen.
Most off seasons, I review all the schedules in the Power Five and I rank them, which is, I was going to say, an exhausting process. I don't want to make it sound like it's some kind of burden. I choose to do it. So it's one of those things that in theory you love to do, and then you get about a tenth of the way through, and then you're like, really, am I going to grind it out and do this? Because to do it right and really compare everybody's schedules, you got to have a system. You can't just start saying, oh, I'm going to compare Miami's and Florida State's and start there. You got to have a system. Anyway, my point being, BYU always has the oddest schedule. Because I think what happens is most of the teams, obviously, in the Power Five play their non-conference games at the beginning of the season. So BYU plays a really difficult September, typically. They really load up on the Pac-12 in particular. A lot of Washington, UCLA, USC kind of games. A lot of those. 4 or 5 of those right out of the gate. And then you can tell that they are just struggling to find an opponent because they're out there by themselves. Them and Notre Dame looking for an opponent. And Notre Dame obviously has its built-in scheduling system. So most of their schedules built out by the ACC, Stanford, USC, Navy. So they pretty much have 8 or 9 of their games locked in. Where BYU, it's this front-loaded schedule, and then they'll pick up a Wisconsin and Michigan State. They'll pick up some really good opponents, and then by the remainder of the schedule, aside from maybe a Boise State, it's a lot of Utah State, and I've seen Wagner on there, and just about anybody they can piece together the rest of the way. So it's usually one of the weakest Power Five, if you want to call them a Power Five, and I know that we could debate that all night in regards to Group of Five, Power Five. I'd swing them more in the Group of Five realm to a certain extent, but I know they're in kind of no man's land. But their schedule is very uneven and awkward. But it's kind of interesting at the same time. I got this 1990 box score in front of me, and again, I remember watching this late night ESPN or like a 9 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, something like that. And for a 1990 game, these were 2 of the few teams that you could put together on the same field where Craig Erickson throws 52 passes and Ty Detmer throws 54.
Wow.
They were putting it up. Detmer went 38 for 54 with a pick. He threw for 406, 3 TDs. Erickson threw 28 for 52 for 299. No TDs and a pick, and again, 28-21 in that one after Miami had beaten them by 24 the year before.
2 years. But yeah, and that was, obviously BYU was one of the teams out west who was kind of chucking the ball all around and everything, and putting up those kind of numbers. It was kind of a niche thing then. It was like them and Houston, David Klingler, and Andre Ware with a Heisman, and things like it wasn't. Everybody wasn't throwing it around like that, but they were. And Miami was a team who was more on the pro style first or early, so throwing it a little bit more than the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And if we had to throw it a lot back then, we would, and this is a game where we needed to, obviously. But yeah, they were just a little bit better at it. And then, that was the foundation for Ty Detmer stepping into the national stage and then eventually winning a Heisman that season for putting up numbers, big numbers against everybody else. But yeah, so that was a little bit of your Miami Hurricanes history. And I'm even learning some about that because, again, I was a 9-year-old University of Michigan fan growing up in Detroit at the times, and I was 9 years old, so I was not up at anybody's 9 o'clock until whenever watching this game or whatever. But it'll be an interesting time for all of us, even approaching around milestone birthday next week, of my age and everything, to even approach
I did the
I
put it together. Okay.
Yeah, it's 40 is the new 30, and apparently 40. Well, not apparently 40 is what I will be on Tuesday. So yeah. But I didn't see this game earlier, and it'll be interesting to see the matchup between these teams in a couple of years. I will do my best to be to the game that's here in Miami Gardens at whatever they're calling Hard Rock Stadium then. I probably will not be making the return trip out to Provo, Utah, but maybe, because when again in my lifetime are they going to play them? Maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
Beautiful scenery from what I've heard. I've never been to Utah myself. I think I've driven like over a corner once or twice, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know that it's a destination necessarily, but Miami with 3 notable receivers in this game. Lamar Thomas caught 9 for 125, Randall Hill 4 for 33 and a touchdown, and Rob Chudzinski. So there's at least 3 NFL players and probably a few other guys that had a cup of coffee, but 3 prominent ones. Yeah, BYU, just very interesting football history, tradition, and what they're known for, because basically they are known. They haven't done anything in a long time that's really worth noting. I know that with, I'm drawing a blank. Zach, the quarterback
Wilson.
they had last year, Zach Wilson. With him and with the easy schedule they put together because of COVID, they went 11-1 and they caused a little flare up last year. But besides that, they've posted a lot of 8 and 5s and 7 and 6s for a long time. So they've been good, they've been decent, but not great and really relevant. But as an all time, they do have that mark of that the passing game. Lavelle Edwards, they did produce 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, Jim McMahon and Steve Young, and a Heisman Trophy. So there's something there, no doubt.
Yeah, Hall of Famer Steve Young, direct descendant of Brigham Young himself. So, yeah.
Back to the Canes and back to the current situation on the practice field for a second week. Somebody had noted in the live chat that Cam Harris has not been practicing.
Cam Harris is not practicing today. He's in a red non-contact jersey. The journalists who are at practice have noted Donald Chaney Jr. also in a non-contact red jersey. Zion Nelson is in pads but not practicing with the team. So DeLon Scaife, GJ Scaife, has slid into the starting left tackle with the first team group. So it's him, Jalen Rivers, Corey Gaynor, Navon Donaldson, and Jared Williams from left to right on the offensive line today. You're going to have guys who are dinged up a little bit. You're going to have some things, it's early on in camp. I'm not really going to read too much into it. And if you got to hold somebody out now for maintenance, if you're going to hold somebody out for maintenance, I would rather be now than like week 6. You know what I mean? And so, that's fine. Even guys who Malik Curtis was not at practice the other day. See, everybody was talking about it today. Everybody down there like, oh, Malik Curtis is back out here. Mark Pope was not at practice the other day. Oh, Mark Pope is back out here today. So, relax. It's early on and everything. I believe that obviously, we want to win. And I think that Manny Diaz knows that. I'm trying to be a little bit more pragmatic than reactionary to see if he could be on the hot seat or whatever this year. But he knows he wants to put up a big year, and he knows that this is the year that's lined up for him and the team to put up a big season, even with Alabama in, playing Alabama in the opener. I'm so very sorry. Excuse me. My group chat is going crazy. Shout out to Britney Spears, who won her legal battle today. Anyway, it's early on, and Manny Diaz wants to win. And I'm sure that he's going to do everything in his power to have the best team available. And also, he's somebody who will, and this is proven by demonstrated roster usage when as he's been here at Miami. He's somebody who will lean on the medical staff and use their evaluations of players and everything, and not be that Bud Kilmer from Friday Night Lights and having people, shot up with Demerol and rushing them out there when they have, all kinds of injuries and things like that. He's going to take care of his players. He wants his players to be healthy and to be successful. And, I think that when you have everybody like that, you're in the better situation to be successful as a team. So, there have been some guys who have missed some time. There will continue to be guys who miss some time. Some of those are planned. Some of those are, hey, football's a collision sport. You're going to get dinged up. You know what I mean? It's all right, guys. If and when a major injury happens, we're all going to hear about it. We're all going to know about it. We'll all figure that stuff out. But just like somebody standing on the sideline in a red non-contact jersey one day this is the end of the first week of practice, because we started on Friday. So Thursday, this is day 7. Okay, well, day 7, practice 5, I believe this is, and everything. It's all right, guys. Marathon, not a sprint. Relax.
Is everything all right with Alan Hay Jr.? Do you know what they're referring to, Maurice, with his comment on the screen?
I know that there was the video of the defensive tackles going through drills, and Alan Hay seems like his feet were maybe a little bit heavier than some of the other guys. You get a guy like Leonard Taylor who's flashing, first round potential already. Everybody around is like, whoa, this kid is. Woo, big dancing bear, he's 6'3", up to 300 something, and he's moving around, running like a wide receiver, it looks like, with his athleticism. And Alan Hay, his feet were a little bit heavier and things like that. But outside of that, nothing that I can think of, unless something happened when I was at the secret day job today and I worked 11 hours. So if I missed it, I'm sorry.
Please don't be sorry. I miss things all the time, trying to keep track of all of this. And we all have we can only do so much. So we got Kane Rapp here, 305 Kane Rapp, asking about Bill O'Brien's offense. I know that Nick Saban has commented many times, as it's been discussed. Obviously, they had one of the all-time prolific offenses last year in college football history. They lost a lot of personnel. They changed offensive coordinators, go from one guy that got a tremendous track record that picked up one of the major jobs in the country, of course, in Steve Sarkisian, move on to Bill O'Brien, who, despite some people's thoughts about him as a head coach in the NFL, certainly is a bright mind and knows what he's doing. Otherwise, he would not have had the positions that he's had in the past in this current one. But I know that they talk the game that they're not changing things. We're going to do what we do and don't expect any major differences to the offense. So that's been Saban and O'Brien's line to date.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not broken for them, so why fix it, first of all? But they have the biggest, one of the largest and most athletic offensive lines around, so they're going to lean on you when they need to. They got, big, athletic, strong running backs, plural, so they're going to do that. And they also have, the best of the best at wide receiver. So they're going to dial things up to put those guys in situations to win routes. And that can be a screen pass to somebody. They're going to take it, 80 yards. I don't know who their new Jalen Waddle or whomever is going to be. But they can also hit you up over the top, whether it's a Ruggs, whether it's a Judy, whether it's a Grandpa Ridley, whether it's a Devontae Smith, whomever. So, you're going to have those same pieces, it's just different names. Big physical offensive line. I mean, your quarterback is a 5-star. No, he hasn't started yet, but, he has a high caliber. You have physical running backs and a plethora of incredible wide receivers. And then tight ends who are big enough and athletic enough to impact the middle of the field as well. You can be as multiple as you want and do pretty much what you want. And schematically, you're going to just plug somebody else in and figure out what they do well and then dial those things up. So I think, that's the short story long to say. It's going to be very similar. You're going to see them spread the field with the wide receivers. You're going to see them spread the field vertically and horizontally in the pass game. And then you're going to see them lean on you because they're bigger and stronger than you at the point of attack until you stop it. And if you bring everybody up to stop it, then that's when we're going to go play, or they're going to go play action and try to hit you over the top. Again, it's not broke for Alabama, so why would you try to fix it? And again, like Mark said, you can say what you want about Bill O'Brien as a head coach. That man dialed up great offense when he was at Penn State. Dialed up great offense when he was coaching at Houston. In the NFL. You know what I mean? So the whole team thing and game management and roster construction, at the NFL level, that didn't really go well. But look at what they did on offense. He's going to do a lot of the same things and has better talent relative to the competition than he did at the NFL level. So, yeah, it's going to look a lot similar. So Miami has a tall task in the opener for sure.
And if anything, it was disappointing for Houston Texans fans that once they got Deshaun Watson, that they didn't take off as expected. And Deshaun Watson on the field, of course, we're talking, has been pretty exceptional. Where Bill O'Brien actually, before Deshaun Watson, took a team that had never won an expansion franchise. I'm going back 20 years, but I still view them as an expansion franchise. But anyway, and took a lot of mediocre play at quarterback, the Matt Schaubs of the world and Tyler Yates, and made playoff appearances. So, but you got to keep winning in the NFL if you're going to keep your job, and things went south.
Yep.
All right. So we got 1800 Hurricane, 1804 Hurricane. Cam, do you think we have more leverage with D tackles and D ends that's not committed now?
Basically, do we have leverage with any people who are not committed now, or the fact that we don't have any committed now? Does that maybe appeal to guys on the recruiting trail? I would hope yes. And I tweeted this after Markeith Williams' commitment yesterday. Said, it's time to start building the beef in this class. We got Flip Carswell at offensive tackle, who's a developmental guy, but he's 6'7", 275, 280-ish. But, I need more beef at the line of attack. I need another offensive tackle. Come on down, Jacob Hood. Come on down, Malik Agbo. Come on down, Julian Armella. One of those guys would be great. Hey, maybe get two of those guys and slide whichever one inside the guard. I'm good with that. But on the defensive side, yeah, we got it. Again, just like I talked about earlier, about the defensive back recruiting this year, going on top of what we've had last year and the year before. We need to do the same thing along the defensive line. So, you do need to hopefully find leverage. And you should be able to say, hey, insert recruit here. Come on down, just like we have Kamari Rogers and Traquan Fegans and Markeith Williams in the secondary, just like we have what's his face? I don't want to say that. I'm sorry. Just like we have Justin Medlock at linebacker. Why don't you come on down here at defensive end? Joel Perez, I don't think that we've lost momentum with Shamar. I just think that it was always going to be a marathon, not a sprint with him. It was never going to be a July 2nd commitment, and then you just ride that out. That was never his process with it, and that's fine. But yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're in a good spot. There's going to be times where you run flat out. There's going to be other times when you maybe fall back a little bit on your pace, but still are consistently moving forward. I believe that's where we are with Shamar Stewart. But yeah, he and others, at the, along our defensive line, hopefully we're able to use the state of things somehow to get some of those guys.
Couple super chats coming in. Let's go to this one first. I had another one posted, but I don't want to lose this one in the cycle. So let's go back to Chuck C. Chuck C, thank you so much for the super chat. That's amazing. We appreciate your support all the time. Cam and Mark, I have 8 bedrooms, and right between.
Can we stop at the flex right there, though? I have 8 bedrooms. Wow. Okay. Continue.
Exactly. You may be the only person I know that has 8 bedrooms.
Honestly and truly.
Right between.
Salt
Lake City and Provo. Come on out and join my 2-person Canes party. After living here 6 years, BYU fans are surprisingly tough talking. It will be fun, but first, ATL, thanks.
Yeah, I've heard that BYU fans can get a little chirpy. Marsh Thomas, my second in command at State of the U, he went to Utah, or he lived out there, and was the Utah fan. So they have the holy war between Utah and BYU and everything, and all those kind of things. And he was always like, "Oh yeah, I know some people who went to BYU or they're BYU fans, and just hear about them chirping and whatnot." So I could see that, but hey, like I said, maybe I won't make that choice to go out there in a few years' time, but we'll see. But thanks for the invite either way.
Absolutely. Is there anything that would back up this statement here that the Air Kings deep ball has not improved?
No.
Okay.
We've seen short accuracy from the videos and everything. We've seen some deep throws, but again, it's practice. You're not really going to see until you're running around in the game in anything. And, it's funny, like, oh, the deep ball hasn't improved or anything, but like, I remember him going up top a few times against Louisville. I remember going up top a few times against Florida State. NC State went up top. But hey, that flag route to the corner to Mike Harley when Mike Harley ran up the steps because he was the inside, so he was the number 3. They did the inside. The two outsides went slant, and he went to the flag, and he dropped it over in the bucket over the top. I mean, is it the best? No. Is it the area for growth? Yes. As King himself said that he wants to improve it. Yeah, but to sit here on August the 12th and be like, oh, it has not improved at all, categorically. Come on, boss. Let's be real.
Hey, Ashley, good to see you, man. Thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate that.
Hey, Jay, look good, fam.
All right. He's looking for a little position breakdown. Biggest battles, Miami versus Alabama offense and defense.
With Alabama on offense, it's going to be Miami's defensive line, because if they're able to get any kind of pressure on Bryce Young, and so that would disrupt the passing game and or the running game, that would be, I think, the biggest thing. Also, linebacker, just because our linebackers have such a far way to go to get to standard for what performance should be. But that's just in general. So if you want to put those together, which we do sometimes in football, and that's called the front seven. So I would say the front seven of Miami's defense against Alabama's offensive line. If you flip it over the other way, I would have to say Miami. I mean, the same thing. It's going to be Miami's offensive line versus their front seven, or their front defensive group. Are we able to hold up, or is it going to be a sieve and some turnstiles like when we played against Florida a couple of years ago? And I know that there were young guys out there, like the 2-star recruit, and he ended up being a left tackle, and I know, but like you got to be able to hold the point of attack. And do something, and hey, maybe you scheme around that, maybe go at some tempo, maybe spread them out, maybe you try to go lateral a little bit against their defense because they are very fast, to try to find a way. Maybe just there's ways to do things, but yeah, I think both ways it's going to be whichever team's offensive line versus the other team's defensive front. That's going to be the biggest thing, and for me, it's on the side of Miami because Alabama's bigger and stronger, so you got to find a way to. I mean, and that's fine. And we're just built differently than them. But you have to use your speed. You have to use your angles. You have to do maybe some stunting and some blitzing. You have to do something on defense to affect their offense. And then they got some monsters. They're just larger sized in the front seven. And I know that they run that 3-4, that 30 front and everything. But they're just larger guys, and it's guys like Jarez Parks. I don't even know if he plays there anymore. He's a 5-star. He's the 5-star that they gray shirted a couple of years ago, who was Patrick Bethel's cousin. We're going to bring him in to be a defensive end, and he's playing outside backer, And I know, like, you want to talk about, outside backer and the 3-4 is really the same thing. But, like, a dude that we're looking at to be a point of attack player 100% of the time, he's playing some of that, some rush, and some coverage over there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just guys that we would have. Yeah, like our defensive ends are their linebackers. And I mean, like all of their linebackers. I mean, they have massive, massive dudes on that defense. So it's just that they're a differently sized team than pretty much everybody out there. So yeah, our offensive line versus their front seven, and then vice versa. That's the thing that's really going to tell a lot of the game to me.
Especially in college football, because of the turnover of the roster and the personnel, there's a bit of more speculation than there would be if we were breaking down an NFL season or a week 1 game in the NFL.
Right.
But I'll make this point because Najee Harris is gone, Devontae Smith is gone, Jalen Waddle's gone, and the quarterback Mac Jones is gone. But still, we know that their replacements are, I don't want to say just as good. They're unproven, but the ratings and the rankings out of high school are just as good and so forth. Is that Ohio State had the second best roster in the country, the third best, the fourth best, no worse than the fourth best, one of the top 4 rosters in the country. They did have a huge letdown in the secondary, which was both just, it cycled poorly for them, but they also had injuries. But Ohio State still had talented guys in the secondary, but they went into complete like prevent defense mode, playing off receivers, giving them throws, and it was ugly. It was just ugly from that standpoint. So, that would be one of Miami's worst nightmares, would be just getting into that pitch and catch where guys are just running free in the secondary, and Ohio State just couldn't keep up from that standpoint.
Yeah, and then that's also something that we talked about, or kind of like it earlier. At what point do you go from trying to be competitive to trying not to get blown out? Like, do you change your coverages? Do you change your calls? Do you change your tempo when you have the ball? Like, that could come into consideration, and hopefully it does not. I want Miami to be competitive. I want Miami to win the goddamn game. Okay, everybody? Like, don't sit out here and say, like, I'm a defeatist. Don't. But we've seen this happen. We've talked about it before on this very show when Florida State was kicking our asses and they were winning the national championship and everything. That was a consideration. Of like, hey, what is the cost benefit analysis? Like, you're walking that razor's edge saying like, yeah, I want to be as competitive as possible, but I also don't want it to be bad. In 2014, it was 41-14 up there, 21-14 going into half. And then they, shut us out and scored 3 touchdowns in the second half. Yeah. The year before we were winning down here and then they came back and won late. But like, like those are considerations. And in this world where recruiting matters and everything's on television and every great play and every great play for you and every terrible play against you is going to be a video and a GIF and an aggregated piece. And I mean, we do it at State of the U. Look at this great thing to highlight the highlights. And then the opposition's team is going to highlight their highlight, which is going to be a Miami low light. You don't want to have those things out there. And if you're trying to be proof positive of, proof of concept that you're going to win, if you want to be involved with 5-star Jaheim Singletary, if you want to be involved with Anthony Lucas, 4-star borderline 5-star out of he lives in Arizona now, but he grew up down here in North Miami Beach. Like if you want to try to make a move on a Jacob Hood who's trending towards Georgia, but massive 6'8", 370 offensive lineman. If you're trying to get Malik Ogbo to choose Miami from Washington State to come on down. If you want to create this cachet for Shamar Stewart and Marvin Jones Jr. and Nigel Kelly, Dante Anderson, all these guys that you want to have in this class, right? Jaden Gibson, all these dudes, they're going to see that. And the optics matter. So you cannot just go balls to the wall and say, hey, if we get blown out, we get blown out. You can do that. But I think that's going to have a negative effect. So like, this is where I bring that up to say the optics matter, and you have to decide and really be in tune with your star player, looking in that mirror and say, hey, can we do this? Are we in a position to do this? Are we performing to do this and to be competitive or potentially win the game or whatever it is? Or are things starting to get away a little bit and we're trying to go Operation Shutdown to make it look halfway decent? Because what you don't want to have happen is what happens when many teams play St. Thomas Aquinas. They get the ball and they score. You get the ball and try to return that opening kickoff, and your kick returner slips over the 7-yard line. Then you run for no gain, have an incompletion, run for a loss of 2. You go to punt the ball gets tipped. They got the ball on the 25. They score again, it's 14-0. Cool, you come on down, you take a deep shot, they get an interception. 3 plays later, it's 21-0, 4 minutes into the game at Brian Piccolo Stadium here in Fort Lauderdale, And they're hyped up. They got that little bitty band that they pipe in through the thing, and they have the glockenspiel, and they're playing that on the little glock, and they're doing all this stuff. The whole student section's there. They're all turned up. They got all these All-Americans. You got Jason freaking Taylor over there on the sideline. You got Roger Harry as their head coach, and he's, and respectfully, and I mean this in the best way, like a Steph Curry way, he's a jerk. Because he wants to just stomp you into and through the ground. And all those guys there, all those players there, they want that too, because they could probably be starring at another school. Some of these guys who are on second and third team. And what do they want? They want a chance to come in and make some plays, because they don't start at Aquinas because they chose to go to Aquinas. Now, all of a sudden, when you get a field goal, cool, they get another touchdown, you get another punt, they take that punt back. It's 35-3 halfway through the second quarter. Right? That kind of a thing is demoralizing. What are you going to do from here? I got a sophomore quarterback on my team, and we're down 5 full scores already. You don't want that same kind of thing to happen at the college level, because, with all due respect, I don't think that we have the horses to come back from that kind of a thing. So you got to manage the game a little bit better, especially up front, so that it doesn't get away from you. And you definitely don't, because everybody's going to watch that game. Everybody's going to see it, and everybody's going to talk about it. Oh, man, we thought they were back. Look, nobody's saying that we're back. But, of course, they're going to use that to put us down. That's why optics matter. I'm telling you guys.
Yeah, and against that team, too. So 21-0 on anybody else on the schedule, even North Carolina, 21-0, I'm still watching the rest of the game. So that's a 3:30 game, week 1. There's probably like 4 or 5 other games, not to that caliber, but decent games on. And if it's 21-0, I may slide to another game and only check back in if it gets to 21-10 or 21-14, because Bama, when do they blow a 21-0 lead? Take anybody else on Miami's schedule. If they're down 21-0 to Pitt, I'm still watching the game, because not that that's a good situation, but Miami can come back from 21 down against Pitt, Virginia, fill in the blank. But against that program, they just don't let that go. And in regards to the comment on the screen about Bryce Young, the only thing I'll say there, because I haven't seen him play enough football, is I think this states a lot. This says a lot, is that I know from having Alabama folks on here and critiquing their backup quarterbacks, Paul Tyson being the backup, are very capable, top 10 at their position, even the third stringer, and very good. And Bryce Young has been, for Nick Saban to have said from the end of last season, he's the starter, and there's been no competition. There's been no stated competition. And we know all over the place that there are some quarterback battles that are pretty well shut down, but the head coach will still report it to be a competition. But Nick Saban's been just out front since the end of last season. Bryce Young's the starter.
I'll put it to you like this. Yes, he's undersized, and we have an undersized quarterback too. He's 5'11", about 185 pounds. He was the number 2 overall recruit in America. He was the number 1 quarterback in America. And 247 Sports has him listed as the number 20 overall all-time recruit in the history of their rankings. I'm going to read you Bryce Young's high school statistics from Mater Dei High School. Again, a premium high school in Southern California, where usually you go there, you win the quarterback job, you go to USC, you might challenge for a Heisman, you might win a Heisman, and then you get drafted highly into the NFL. That is the progression of guys who go to Mater Dei. Everybody knows that school. Everybody knows that program. Everybody knows the quarterback for Mater Dei is one of the premier players in America always. These are his stats from high school. 915 completions and 1,311 throws for 13,250 yards, 152 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions, to go along with 1,084 yards and 26 touchdowns rushing. Now, has he done that at the college level? No. Is he going to 100% be that at the college level? No. But that's the kind of pedigree that he brings. That's the kind of demonstrated performing excellence he has exuded on the field. Again, being the premier player at a premier school that is, for a long time, been known for developing elite quarterbacks. That's how good he can be. That's the kind of player we're talking about. So we're going to have a tall task in front of us to combat that, because he's a guy who has that kind of demonstrated ability. But he's not done it at this level, so I'm not saying it's going to be 100%. But if you're sitting here thinking, well, Bryce Young, I didn't know that name. I don't follow recruiting that much, Cam. Tell me a little bit about it. Da, 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 da. I just did. Okay, so yes, he could be the next one up and everything, and hopefully we're catching him before he really hits his stride. But it's not going to be. You remember when Brad Kaya first started his opener, true freshman at Louisville, and we ran the original Tecmo Bowl offense, up an A, down an A, left an A, right an A, the 4-play playbook? That's not going to be what is going to be with Bryce Young at the controls. And he can do a lot of things, and he can do a lot of things well. So we're going to have to do a lot of things and a lot of things well to combat the kind of ability that he has as well.
We've got about 210 folks on the line. If
Let's
all
go!
of you would
Over
head on
200.
out there, yeah, if you would all head on out there, that's a tremendous number. But I know we've been in the 350, 375 range in prior seasons. And if everybody would head on out there between now and next Thursday and get some more folks in here, that would be the way to go. Elaine is asking, who's going to start opposite DeAndre Johnson, the Tennessee transfer?
It needs to be Jafari Harvey. Just plain and simple. I know that we're rotating a lot right now. It's early on in camp. You know, the first day of practice, that depth chart came out from, you know, the riders who were able to go to practice and say, okay, well, this is who's the first team on defense. And I did not like that group, to be perfectly honest. But it should be DeAndre Johnson. It should be Jafari Harvey. And then rotating other guys in. Can he have a role on this team? Sure. Is he going to get some snaps? Absolutely. I'm over the fact of Zach McCloud starting. And I was Zach McCloud's biggest fan. Oh, I thought he was going to be a first-round draft pick. He had the build and everything. Coming out of Santa Lucia's, he was violent on film from a big linebacker. You know, he's a guy, and that's fine. We need guys to make plays and, you know, to take snaps and things like that. But I don't want to see him starting. He's not a starting caliber defensive end here at the University of Miami, with all due respect. So it should be DeAndre Johnson and Jafari Harvey. Because his Asha's mom came in the comments or wrote me on Twitter sometime that's Jafari. So okay, cool. Jafari should be the one starting opposite DeAndre Johnson.
We'll see if the announcers get that right this season.
We'll see.
This looks like a recipe for disaster down here. I understand what you're going for, though, Benzo Kane, but no.
No, because if we're taking King out of the game at quarterback, that means you're putting Tyler Van Dyke or Jake Garcia in there, because you're not putting Peyton Matoke in there. But intentionally planning, like if he's injured and he can't go, fine, take King off the field. But I'm not no, he needs to be. I want him. No. What are you gaining in terms of performance? And I know you said to keep him fresh and everything, but there's times when Alabama will be on offense and then he can get a blow on the bench, while Miami's playing defense or something. Yeah, I just don't. No. If you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And with all due respect to Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke, who I think both can play here, both have the potential to be starting caliber players or better here at Miami, they need a couple mango seasons. I'm not taking a single snap away from Derek King in favor of those guys, in favor of them this year. Now Miami's up big, or the converse, which I'm not going to say. But you know what I'm saying? If it's a decisive score line and you want to get some experience, yeah, but intentionally planning, hey, it's the third possession of the first quarter and it's, 2nd and 6. We're going to just swap out the quarterback for no.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where you do that. I just can't fathom what it would be. Even if it's 3rd and 1 and you think you got to you don't have a give me first down. So,
you don't.
Or if it's 3rd and 17, you don't want to, unless you're going to say we're punting, therefore Van Dyke is coming in or Garcia, and they're going to hand the ball off. There's no threat of the pass because you don't want them taking a chance putting the ball in. There's just
But
really.
But I don't want them handling the snap either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. No. Like, if you're going to run that draw, if you're going to run that, that halfback screen, if you're going to, do that, what? Then let D'Eriq King do that. No.
It's not even really fair to them.
Exactly. Like, you're going to lose it. No.
Let them get reps against, we can choose the teams.
And again, I get where you're coming from of saying, okay, if he needs to stay fresh and things like that, he's just going to have to manage himself on the sideline or whatever. What was that last question?
You wanted to see the previous one I had up there?
Yeah.
Somebody had asked, how is Miami going to run the ball against Alabama?
That one. Man, we're going to have to scheme something up. And the other thing about it is QB run with D'Eriq King is going to have to be an integral part of that. Because I do not think that you're simply, regardless of if it's inside zone, zone read, outside zone, pistol, power, trap, counter, whatever scheme you want to run, I don't think that you're just simply going to line up and blow them off the ball and run the ball. So you're going to have to do something with some misdirection, and you're going to have to use the numbers to your advantage, where if I'm Lashley, I'm calling a play, but I give D'Eriq that look, which really means, we call this pass play, but go make something happen. You know what I mean? Like, and all the receivers are going to run it like it's the pass play. They're going to be looking for the ball. The offensive line, they're going to do what they're going to do. But number one back there is just going to go do something else because, simpatico, like, hey. You know what I mean? One of those things. Like, you're going to have to use everything that you can, bro. And in addition, I think that you're going to have to try to do something else to replace the run game. Maybe it's your slip screens, maybe it's your bubbles, different kind of, maybe integrate your short passing game, your RPOs, your slants. You're going to have to do some things like that to be the de facto replacement of the run game. But yeah, you're going to have to find a way to run the ball. Do I think that we're going to be super successful? Like that one day when North Carolina was running and still is running all over and through and around and like our defense, I don't think that we're going to have a day like that, but you need to have a day where you're averaging, find a way to be 3.8 yards a carry or more, which is a tough task against them, I know. Let's take it to the interwebs really quickly. If I go over here and I go Alabama defense and I go last season and I go rushing defensive game log, well, they gave up more yards rushing a couple of times. So Mississippi, and they have a quarterback who can run, and they got some speed. They get 4.7 yards a carry and 4 touchdowns. Georgia, but Georgia's Georgia, which is a big team, 4.83 yards per carry, and they lost by 17. And then in the playoff, O State, 5.07 yards per game, or yards per rush allowed. Every other game is going to be 3.83 was Texas A&M, 115 on 30. So that's like right at your target. But you need to be that. So, you're really looking at like a 4 yards a carry or more. That's a tall task, especially with the history of Miami running against defenses of this caliber. But you really need to be 4 yards a carry or more. And hey, man, figure it out. And again, when you went to that Lane Kiffin, that spread and that speed and that, John Reese Plumlee and almost 5 yards a carry. Quarterback heavily integrated in that run game, Jerrion Ely, other guys, even Elijah Moore on a reverse, things like that. You're going to have to do something like that. And we've seen the blueprint to have that kind of impact in the run game. But if you are thinking of the time of your youth, when it would be lined up, I formation, fullback behind the quarterback, tailback behind him, hut, handed on 34 inside dive, and you're going to get 7 yards. Telling you now, that's not how it's going to be against Alabama. So can we? Yes, it's just going to be a little bit different than you might be thinking from the run game.
A little bit of hope here would be Ohio State at almost 5.1 yards per carry. They lost Trey Sermon on the first play of the game. So
Yeah.
he was by far their best back. Master Teague is serviceable. So Miami's backs are better than what Ohio State had after they lost Trey Sermon. And I would say for as good as Justin Fields is, I'd say De'Ara King's slightly better runner. They're in the same class. Ohio State's got a much better offensive line than at least what Miami's shown.
Yeah. So little column A, little column B, you know, balancing the scales of seeing what's going to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, there are ways that we can employ some schemes and use the talent on the roster to run effectively. But yeah, it's just not going to be directly ahead right at them. I don't think that we have that in us on a consistent basis, at least. But we'll see.
Yeah. If this was a postseason game, I could answer that question from Falconer X about the officiating crew, but I'm not so sure about these neutral site
me either.
games in regards to officiating crews.
Yeah.
I don't know. Falconer X, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate that. I'm going to slide this in here real quick. If you want to buy some merch, Miami merch, other teams as well, but we got just about everybody covered. Go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, voiceofcollegefootball.com. Go to the top of the screen at the store there and check it out. All right. You got anything else for us, Cam?
No, I'm just wearing my home field shirt.
All right.
You know, from last week, I got another wonderful design from Home Field, the Miami drop. Right here, it is super incredibly comfortable. I love it, honestly and truly. You guys should check it out. Again, the link is still on the website here for first-time buyers. Promo code State of the U is going to be that, and everything else is going to be up on the website. So yeah, I'm good.
You know, Falconer X just won't let us go here. We appreciate it, man. You're right here for us. I know that every time. Miami has to take control of penalties to beat Bam. And that's one thing that went through my mind when we were talking about down and distance, because you start playing, 3rd and 11, 2nd and 15. Yeah, it gets tough. If the Canes give up anywhere near 100 yards in penalties, the chance to win will be very low.
Fact. But that's it. So, yeah, check us out. You know where to find me. I'll see you guys soon.
See you, Cam. Thanks, man.
No worries.
All right, everyone. I am headed over to the main channel right now with Gold and Blue Dude to talk up West Virginia and everything else that we get into concerning the ACC and the nation and the Big 12 and everything else. West Virginia, but we'll talk up college football in general. Head on over to the main channel right now.